I only used it for fighting where that was my image, just real hardcore, no soft.
After Tyson returned and destroyed Frank Bruno in 1995, people believed the old Iron Mike was truly back. But inside, Tyson was breaking again. Fame, money, and power came rushing back into his life the moment he walked out of prison. And the same old chaos came with it. He had the title again, the spotlight again, and millions watching again. But the discipline he once learned under Cus D'Amato was nowhere to be found. Tyson said many times that he felt like a trapped animal after prison, unable to understand the world anymore. Reporters treated him like a wild beast. Fans expected violence from him, and promoters pushed him back into the ring before he could even breathe. Tyson himself admitted later that he wasn't mentally ready. He was angry, confused, and overwhelmed. He had only one place where things made sense, the ring, and even that soon started slipping away from him. The people around him changed. The world around him changed. But the demons inside him, they were exactly the same. Just a few months after the Bruno fight, Tyson faced Bruce Seldon on September 7th, 1996. The fight lasted only 109 seconds. Many people thought Seldon gave up too quickly, and some even suggested the fight looked fake. Tyson didn't care. In his mind, the quicker the destruction, the better. After that fight, Tyson's fame grew to insane levels. He wasn't just a boxer anymore. He was a global figure, a symbol of fear, a headline generator. Everywhere he went, crowds followed. In public, he was calm and silent like a loaded gun waiting to go off. But behind the scenes, the pressure kept building. He spent money recklessly. Cars, mansions, jewels, animals, parties. He trusted the wrong people again, and the toxic friendships he had escaped once returned. The more he tried to rebuild himself, the more he spiraled. People around him said they could feel the storm coming. It was just a matter of time before he exploded again. Then came the fight that changed everything, the infamous rematch with Evander Holyfield on June 28, 1997. Their first fight in 1996 ended with Tyson losing, something he still couldn't accept. In the rematch, Holyfield frustrated him again with clinching, leaning, and head movement. Tyson felt headbutted several times and lost control. What happened next became one of the most shocking moments in sports history. Tyson bit Holyfield's ear not once, but twice. The ring broke into chaos. Fans screamed. Trainers rushed in. Holyfield held his bleeding ear. Tyson roared in anger. For the first time, he wasn't a champion or a warrior. He looked like a man fully controlled by his rage. The Nevada State Athletic Commission revoked his boxing license and fined him $3 million. Tyson said he did it out of fear and frustration, but the world only saw madness. The bite wasn't just a moment. It became a symbol of Tyson's downfall. People started calling him unstable, dangerous, uncontrollable. Tyson himself later admitted that he didn't even feel like he was in control of his own body that night. It was his worst side, fully unleashed in the years that followed. Tyson tried to climb back, but nothing felt the same anymore. He fought Francois Botha in January 1999 and won by knockout, but the fight was filled with shoving, grabbing, and anger. He fought Orlin Norris later that year and knocked him down after the bell, leading to a no-contest ruling. Tyson seemed desperate, confused, and constantly angry. He kept getting into legal trouble, bar fights, traffic incidents, threats. His finances collapsed. He filed for bankruptcy in 2003, even after earning over $400 million in his career. The world saw a man who once ruled the ring now drowning in debt, legal problems, and mental battles. That rage that helped him dominate opponents had become the same force destroying his life. Tyson once said, "I was my own worst enemy," and this period proved it. His 2002 fight with Lennox Lewis was another painful fall. Tyson was older, slower, and out of shape. Lewis dominated him in every round, and the knockout in the eighth was almost merciful. Tyson showed heart, but not the sharpness he once had. After the fight, he hugged Lewis and apologized for everything he had said. Tyson wasn't pretending. He was exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally. The fighter who once terrified everyone now looked like a man begging for peace. But peace still didn't come. Tyson fought a few more times. losing to Danny Williams in 2004 and Kevin McBride in 2005. Both losses were humiliating, and after the McBride fight, Tyson sat in a corner and simply said, "I can't do this anymore." He had no stamina, no discipline, and no fire left. He retired from boxing, his legacy torn between greatness and chaos. After retirement, Tyson's life became even more difficult. He battled deep depression, addiction, financial problems, and emotional trauma. He admitted to using drugs heavily, especially cocaine. He spoke about suicidal thoughts, loneliness, and regret. The same man who once knocked out grown men, with a single punch now struggled just to stay alive. Tyson said he felt empty after leaving the ring, because boxing was the only place where he understood who he was. Without it, he felt lost. He tried TV shows, movies, business ventures, and even a one-man stage performance. Some things worked, some didn't. But slowly, Tyson began trying to rebuild himself. He worked on his mental health, stayed away from bad influences, and found peace in family life. Still, the darkness never fully left him. Tyson admitted that his temper could come back instantly, like a switch flipping inside his mind. He said he felt like two different people, the calm Mike and the destructive Iron Mike. And whenever stress or anger pushed him, Iron Mike took over. Which brings us to recent years, where his name returned to headlines again. Tyson came back into training in 2020 for exhibition fights. First with Roy Jones Jr., and later for a highly promoted match against Jake Paul. The fight was controversial from the beginning. Tyson was older, slower, and carrying years of pain and injuries. People questioned whether the fight should even happen. But Tyson, hungry for a purpose, accepted. After the fight, fans noticed Tyson didn't look like himself. He seemed agitated, overwhelmed, and mentally drained. The chaos was returning. And just weeks after his fight with Jake Paul, the meltdown happened, the one caught on hotel security footage in Las Vegas. Tyson reportedly attacked a man who insulted him outside a hotel entrance. Witnesses said Tyson snapped instantly. He threw several punches before security pulled him away. Police arrived, and within hours, Tyson was in handcuffs again. But the real shock came during his arrest, when Tyson told officers something deeply troubling. Words that made even hardened police officers freeze. Tyson said, "I can't control him anymore," referring to the violent part of himself. Officers later described his behavior as unstable and emotional. Tyson reportedly talked about fear, anger, voices from his past, and losing control of his mind. It wasn't the tough, fearless Tyson the world knew. It was a broken man facing the same demons he'd been fighting since childhood. This meltdown made many people realize something important. No amount of fame, money, or victories can erase the trauma of a violent childhood, decades of pressure, and years of abuse, physical, emotional, and psychological. Tyson wasn't just a fighter. He was a survivor of poverty, bullying, crime, imprisonment, and fame that came too fast. His entire life was a battle, not just with opponents, but with himself. And even at 58, that battle was still raging. Mike Tyson's latest outburst continued to dominate global headlines. Many people began asking one question over and over: how did things get this bad again? Despite Tyson's past mistakes and emotional battles, this new arrest felt different and far more unsettling. Friends close to him revealed that, in the months before the incident, he had shown signs of slipping into old patterns. He had been canceling important events, withdrawing from normal life, and losing control during private moments. For someone who had spent years rebuilding his reputation, these small cracks were warning signs that something serious was happening behind the scenes. But like so many public figures, Tyson tried to hide his struggles, hoping he could handle everything on his own. Unfortunately, his inner pressure reached a point where even he couldn't hold it in anymore, and it exploded in a way that shocked everyone, including himself. Fans who adored him felt confused. Some defended him, saying famous people face extreme pressure, while others felt disappointed that Tyson had allowed stress to push him back toward dangerous behavior. And as investigators continued gathering evidence about what happened, it became clear that this wasn't a simple misunderstanding or a random emotional slip. Tyson had been battling personal demons for months, and his outburst was a final result of long building pain, stress, and loss of emotional balance. For someone who had lived through chaos, fame, violence, and redemption, this new moment felt like the beginning of yet another painful chapter, one that even his closest supporters feared he might not recover from easily. In the days following Tyson's arrest, more details slowly came out from police records, witness interviews, and leaked reports. People inside the facility where Tyson was held described him as silent, distant, and exhausted, a huge contrast from the fiery public persona the world was used to. Instead of shouting or demanding attention, he reportedly sat alone, speaking very little and refusing most requests. This emotional shutdown worried the authorities, who understood that unpredictable behavior often follows deep emotional distress. Meanwhile, Tyson's legal team scrambled to create a defense strategy that would protect him not only legally, but mentally. They argued that Tyson's past trauma, combined with overwhelming pressure and nonstop public exposure, led to the meltdown that caused his arrest. Social media erupted with debates. Was Tyson truly dangerous, or was he just a man crushed by decades of emotional scars? Many fans pointed out how Tyson has been open about his childhood trauma, his life on the streets, the violent world of boxing, and emotional wounds he never fully healed. Others argued that fame had shielded him for too long, allowing him to avoid responsibility for actions that would have destroyed anyone else's life. But one thing was clear: Tyson wasn't the unstoppable warrior he once was in the ring. He was older, more fragile, and more vulnerable to emotional collapse. Several close friends said he had been struggling with sleep anxiety and a growing fear that the public's love could disappear at any moment. These psychological pressures, combined with the intense expectations placed on him as a legendary figure, created a storm inside him that he could no longer control. Even the people who loved him most admitted that Tyson needed real help. Not publicity, not sympathy, but deep healing and professional guidance he had ignored for too long. What shocked fans even more was how Hollywood and the sports world reacted. Celebrities who normally stood by Tyson's side remained unusually silent. A few made statements, but their words were cautious, measured, and carefully controlled. Some longtime friends shared that they were worried not only for Tyson's mental health, but also for protecting their own public image. Supporting someone in the middle of a scandal is risky, especially when facts are still unclear and the media is hungry for controversy. Sporting legends who once admired Tyson's courage now privately admitted that they had seen troubling signs in him for months. He had reportedly become more defensive, more emotional, and more unpredictable during conversations. Some claimed that he carried unresolved guilt from past actions, while others believed that Tyson struggled with the fear of growing old after spending most of his life being physically unbeatable. This internal conflict turned him into a man unsure of who he was without the strength and fame that once defined him. Meanwhile, media outlets took full advantage of the situation, releasing dramatic titles, exaggerated theories, and emotional narratives that only worsened Tyson's mental state. Every new headline added pressure, every rumor added confusion, and every judgment from strangers pushed him further into emotional isolation. Even Tyson's family was caught in the middle, trying to support him but overwhelmed by the nonstop public attacks. It became clear that Tyson wasn't just fighting legal trouble. He was fighting an entire world that expected him to remain strong, while ignoring the pain he carried every day. This harsh environment made many experts believe that Tyson's meltdown wasn't random at all. It was an explosive result of emotional wounds that had never been properly healed. As Tyson waited for his court date, experts in psychology and mental health began analyzing the situation with deeper insight. Many professionals suggested that Tyson's past, as a young boy exposed to violence, abandonment, bullying, and street survival, had shaped his adult life in ways he never fully escaped. These early traumas created emotional patterns that often resurfaced during moments of stress or fear. Even though Tyson tried to reinvent himself many times, becoming an actor, podcaster, businessman, and motivational figure, the emotional triggers from his past sometimes returned stronger than ever. According to psychologists who studied celebrities with similar backgrounds, individuals who rise to global fame at a young age often struggle with identity crises later in life. Tyson's entire identity had once been built around physical power, aggression, and survival. When that identity faded with age, many experts believed he struggled to create a stable new version of himself. This emotional instability, combined with pressure from fans, constant online criticism, and the unrealistic expectation that he must always appear tough, push him into a dangerous mental corner. His recent outburst, they said, wasn't merely an act of anger. It was a cry for help, a sign that Tyson had reached a breaking point. Some psychologists urged the court to consider mandatory mental health treatment instead of harsh punishment, arguing that Tyson needed rehabilitation, not imprisonment. They emphasized that untreated trauma, if ignored for too long, can lead to destructive behavior. Tyson's case, they said, was a powerful reminder that even the strongest people can fall apart inside. And while the world judged his actions, very few recognized the silent emotional war he had been fighting for decades. Ultimately, these experts hoped that Tyson's crisis could spark a much-needed conversation about mental health, trauma recovery, and the pressures placed on aging celebrities. While Tyson remained behind bars, something unexpected began to happen. The public, which initially reacted with shock and criticism, slowly shifted toward compassion as more information surfaced. People began discussing the dangers of ignoring mental health, the weight of childhood trauma, and the harsh reality that fame does not protect anyone from emotional pain. Documentary filmmakers, sports analysts, and even former opponents started sharing stories of Tyson's struggles, reminding the world his life had always been more complicated than it appeared. These discussions helped frame Tyson not as a villain, but as a man battling overwhelming emotional pressure. Younger fans who only knew him as a meme podcast host or video personality finally saw the human behind the legend. Someone flawed, damaged, but still fighting to survive. This shift in public perception offered a small ray of hope. Tyson's team saw the growing support as a chance for redemption, focusing their strategy not on denying what happened, but on explaining it with honesty and vulnerability. They argued that Tyson wasn't trying to harm anyone. He was a man pushed to his psychological limit. If given proper treatment and guidance, he could rebuild his life once again. Many fans agreed, saying that Tyson's story shouldn't end in another fall from grace. Instead, they believed this would be the moment that finally pushes him toward long-term healing and emotional stability. Whether the court would show compassion or follow a strict legal path remained uncertain. But one thing was clear. Tyson's journey was far from over.